going head girl and head boy, Isla and Luke, to give us their particular recollections of their time in Gairloch High School. I don't know which one of you is going first. There you go.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. I think it's fair to say that, as expected, I left writing my speech to the very last minute, so do forgive me if it's a little bit shoddy. I wasn't entirely sure what to say, so I may as well start at the beginning. I would like to say that I remember my first day in the big school, but I'm afraid that I don't. I do remember the general feeling of being a small fish in a big pond, but that's a distant memory now. Nethy Bridge is always the highlight of first year, and that was no different in our year. I think most of you are aware that we have a fair few characters in our year, and therefore Nethy was quite eventful. The first day we weren't even at Nethy when there was a priceless look on Mr. McSwan's face when the waitress in Starbucks asked Luke Murray to hold his dad's drink. He was not impressed, to say the least. As I said, there are a lot of memories from Nethy, so I'll not bore you with all the you had to be there jokes. One of the highlights was having the 6 years there to wind us all up. There were love letters arranging meetings between various people, such as Ryan and Gemma, who were to meet behind the bike shed at 5 o'clock. I always remember the shock of climbing into my sleeping bag and getting tangled up in somebody else's boxers. At that stage it was utterly hilarious, but what was better was Mr. Gorman's face when he found Luke hidden in the locker in the girls' room late one evening. How rebellious we were. There were many blossoming romances too. Not to name names, but Gemma and Lyle, Ainsley and Chris, and Danny and Calvin. I also must admit that Luke was not always head boy material. At Pizza Hut he did have a bit too much coke, got a bit overexcited and forgot to change his shoes after bowling. There is always one. Not to mention the French trip when we walked around the corner to where find Luke wearing a G-string made of sweeties over his trousers. That's not something you forget very easily. Anyway, I would easily ramble on all day about the thousands of memories I've collected over the years, but some of the most prominent did take place in our Duke of Edinburgh expeditions. We had a whale of a time on Bronze, singing as we ran down the hills. I mean, who doesn't want to hear awful renditions of Katy Perry and the Flower of Scotland whilst they're enjoying a peaceful walk in the Highlands? We also had some brutal games of Beat the Letter, which I probably shouldn't divulge. Silver, however, was a different kettle of fish. That was not all dancing and singing through fields, no. We failed our first expedition after trudging for over 13 hours to somewhere that should have taken us about 7. Miss Newman almost broke her ankle. We were all very miserable. It was wet, and that was the end of that. So understandably, we weren't the most excited for our next expedition. This entailed us having to change our route twice due to bad weather, and I think Mr. Gorman may have got a bit irritated when it took us all day to climb just a wee hill. Our final silver expedition almost broke us on the first night. We were complaining about how we would rather pay £600 to be at home and how we'd rather be shot in the leg, but this soon changed. Our second and third days of that expedition are among the most memorable in my life. It was beautiful. The views were stunning, the weather was nice, and everything went almost perfectly, apart from Mags accidentally threw her bag into a river, and I turned round and saw Ailey fall into that very same river. Gold was just as good. The views were spectacular, but it was all just mountains and trees. In all seriousness though, D&B was definitely one of the most amazing experiences of my school life, and I would recommend it to absolutely anybody who thinks they could be up for it. Our S4 activity week was another highlight. We learned how to card and spin wool, which was an experience, but what really stuck was our mountain biking trip. I haven't got the best balance, and amongst the screaming and possible cursing, I fell off numerous times. Mr. Gorman thought he would help by screaming, "Attack position! And parallel!" at me, which made no sense at all and finished with me tumbling into a bush, but at least he tried. However, this past year has been among the best so far. I honestly couldn't have asked for a better group of people to spend the past 6 years with. This really came to light in our senior years, and I think it's safe to say that we are one of the closest years this school has had. I mean, how many others has managed to organise almost 3/4 of the year to go on an end-of-school holiday? And who could forget the boys' fabulous rendition of Beyonce's Single Ladies Dance? That's something that I hope I will never ever forget. However, it was not just the students that made this year so fun. When you get to 6th year, teachers become much more human, even Mr. Hume. Laura and I spent plenty of time quizzing him about various knickknacks in his office and what he'd done in his life and just generally irritating him, but I think he secretly loved it. However, he did have a relentless struggle to try and keep us all out of the sick year room during study columns, but it never really worked. Another teacher that has had a fair influence on my final year has to be Mr. Johnson, or as we've been calling him for the last year, Papa J. We all had so much fun in advanced higher biology, and I'm sorry to say that I don't think you're ever going to get an advanced higher class as amazing as us. I also must mention the mother hen of Marie, Mr. Milner. I would say he's the father of Marie, but mother hen just suits him better. He's always been there through all the house events, dressed in whatever red clothing he can find. And don't worry, sir, you can keep my red tights, they suit you better anyway. You're always there for everybody, and no matter whether they were in Marie or not. I can't thank you enough for helping me through school. I don't think I would have tried so hard without the constant fear of disappointing you. I could stand here and thank every single teacher in this school for various reasons, but I would be here all day and I don't want to throw Dr. Kelly's meticulous time schedule off kilter. However, I would like all the teachers to know that whether I was in your class or not, I seriously appreciate the way you shaped my school life. Whether it was telling me off in my more rebellious years or getting the crack in my more senior years, I highly doubt any of you will be forgotten in a hurry. I think I speak for everyone when I say we've all had those days where we've hated school and never wanted to go back. But I must say, looking back on my time here, it's made me realise that it wasn't that bad. I've gained so many memories and friends for life, and I hope that one day everyone here appreciates that no matter how much you loathe school, it really is a valuable part of your life. Whether it's the best days of your life, well, we'll just have to wait and see. I'd like to thank all the teachers for everything they've done over my time here. It is amazing how much effort they put into making our school life more bearable, usually. I'd also like to thank my mum and the rest of my family for helping me through my school life. I would also like to thank all of my year for providing me with so much entertainment and memories over the years. I don't think I would have fared this well without you, and I hope that we stay in touch for as long as possible, no matter how far and wide we travel. I still expect to see you all in 15 years in our reunion. I would also like to thank Luke for helping me throughout the year. We're still friends, so I do consider it a success. You really made being head girl a lot more fun, even if it did include getting a tad annoyed at you at a couple of moments. But really, I appreciated your company all this year. I would also like to thank you for providing me with so many laughs over the years. I can still picture you in the wheelie bin, in the field, slowly falling backwards, yet still singing, I'm Mr. Lonely. You really are a great character. Finally, I would like to offer my congratulations to both Innes and Beth, and I wish you the very best of luck. You've got some big boots to fill. Thank you all for listening. I think it's probably best I leave it there, or we'll be here all day.